Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. The story begins at the Admiral Benbow Inn, run by young Jim Hawkins' family. One day, a mysterious old seaman named Billy Bones arrives, carrying a heavy sea chest. He pays in advance and takes a room, warning Jim to watch for a seafaring man with one leg. The captain is a rough, intimidating figure who drinks heavily and sings haunting sea shanties about dead men's chests and bottles of rum. He tells terrifying stories of piracy and violence that both frighten and fascinate the inn's patrons. Jim notices the captain seems to be hiding from his past, and the boy's curiosity is piqued by the man's strange behavior and his constant vigilance. Soon enough, the captain's past catches up with him. First comes a sinister visitor named Black Dog, who has a missing finger and a pale, tallowy face. The two men have a violent confrontation that ends with Black Dog fleeing and the captain suffering a stroke. Dr. Livesey arrives to treat him, warning that rum will be the death of him. Then an even more terrifying figure appears, a blind beggar named Pew, who delivers the black spot, a pirate's summons meaning death. The shot proves too much for the captain, who collapses and dies. Before his death, he warns Jim about the one-legged man and hints at a treasure waiting to be claimed. After the captain's death, Jim and his mother search his sea chest, hoping to find money owed for his lodging. They discover gold coins, a logbook, and most importantly, a sealed packet containing a map. Before they can finish, they hear the tap-tapping of the blind beggar's stick approaching. They flee just in time as a gang of pirates, led by Pew, ransacks the inn searching for the map. Pew is accidentally killed by revenue officers who arrive on the scene, but the map is safe with Jim, who takes it to Dr. Livesey and Squire Trelawney. The Squire and Doctor are electrified by the discovery. The map shows Treasure Island, with Flint's treasure marked by a red cross. Squire Trelawney immediately begins organizing an expedition, buying a ship called the Hispaniola and hiring a crew. He boastfully talks about the treasure, which the doctor warns is dangerous. Jim is to come along as cabin boy, and the squire hires a cook named Long John Silver, a one-legged man who runs a tavern called the Spyglass. Silver seems pleasant and capable, with a parrot named Captain Flint that squawks pieces of eight. But Jim feels uneasy, remembering the captain's warning about a one-legged man. The voyage begins from Bristol, with Captain Smollett expressing misgivings about the expedition and the crew. He suspects the men know more about their treasure-hunting mission than they should. Jim finds Silver charming and helpful, but notices something unsettling beneath his friendly exterior. During the voyage, Jim accidentally overhears a conversation from inside an apple barrel. Silver is talking with crew members, revealing himself as the ringleader of a mutiny plot. Most of the crew are former pirates from Flint's old crew, planning to kill the captain, doctor, squire, and Jim once the treasure is found. Jim is horrified but stays hidden, learning crucial details of their plan. Jim immediately reports what he heard to Captain Smollett, Dr. Livesey, and Squire Trelawney. They realize they're outnumbered, only 7 loyal men against 19 mutineers. The captain devises a plan to maintain the upper hand as long as possible. When the island comes into view, tensions mount. The mutineers are restless, barely concealing their excitement. Silver plays both sides expertly, maintaining his friendly demeanor with the officers while secretly controlling the rebellious crew. The loyal party knows violence is inevitable but must choose their moment carefully. As they approach Treasure Island, Jim observes its foreboding appearance: gray woods, wild stone spires, and the looming Spyglass Hill. The captain allows most of the crew to go ashore, hoping to delay the mutiny. Jim impulsively joins one of the boats going to the island, wanting to explore. Once ashore, he runs off into the woods to escape Silver's control. He finds himself alone in the strange, quiet landscape, both terrified and exhilarated by his freedom. While hiding, Jim witnesses Silver murder an honest sailor named Tom who refuses to join the mutiny. Then he hears the death scream of another loyal crewman, Alan. Horrified, Jim flees deeper into the island's interior. He encounters a wild-looking man dressed in tattered sails who calls himself Ben Gunn. Gunn claims he was marooned on the island 3 years ago, once part of Flint's crew. He tells Jim he can help the loyal party if they promise to take him home and give him a share of the treasure. Jim learns that Gunn has already found and moved Flint's treasure. Meanwhile, back at the Hispaniola, the remaining loyalists abandon ship for a stockade on the island. They take as many supplies and weapons as possible in a tense, dangerous operation. During their escape, the pirates fire the ship's cannon at them, swamping their boat but allowing them to reach shore. They establish themselves in the stockade, a log fort with a spring, preparing for the inevitable attack. Tom Redruth, the squire's servant, is killed during the landing, the first casualty of the island conflict. The pirates attack the stockade in a fierce assault. Jim, who has returned from his encounter with Ben Gunn, fights alongside his friends. During the battle, there's hand-to-hand combat at the walls. The loyal party suffers losses. Hunter and Joyce are killed, and Captain Smollett is seriously wounded. But they repel the attack, killing several pirates. The situation is desperate. They're low on supplies, outnumbered, and trapped. Silver raises a flag of truce and comes to negotiate, offering terms if they surrender the map. Captain Smollett defiantly refuses, and Silver threatens to storm the stockade again. Jim, feeling restless and wanting to contribute, secretly leaves the stockade. He finds Ben Gunn's homemade boat hidden under a white rock. Under cover of darkness, he rows out to the Hispaniola, which is now guarded by only 2 pirates, Israel Hands and another man. Jim cuts the ship's anchor rope, planning to set her adrift to prevent the pirates from escaping. As the ship begins to move with the current, he hears the 2 guards fighting drunkenly below deck. The Hispaniola drifts uncontrolled, with Jim clinging to her. He manages to board the moving ship as it's swept along by currents. Below deck, he discovers Israel Hands has killed his companion in their drunken quarrel. Hands, wounded himself, pretends to cooperate with Jim, offering to help him sail the ship. But it's a trick. Once Jim lets his guard down, Hands throws a dagger that pins him to the mast. In the ensuing struggle, Jim shoots Hands, who falls overboard into the sea. Exhausted and wounded, Jim manages to anchor the ship in a safe cove, then collapses from his injuries and fatigue. When Jim returns to the stockade, he finds it occupied by the pirates. Silver captures him immediately. To Jim's surprise, Silver protects him from the other pirates, who want to kill the boy. Silver shows Jim that he now has the stockade and the map, taken from the doctor during a temporary truce when the loyal party abandoned the fort to treat Ben Gunn. But Silver's position is precarious. His men are growing dissatisfied, and some believe he's making secret deals to save himself. The next day, the pirates set out with the map to find the treasure. Jim is forced to go with them as Silver's hostage. The atmosphere is tense and suspicious. The pirates find the treasure site marked on the map, but when they dig, they discover only an empty hole. Someone has already taken Flint's treasure. Enraged, the pirates turn on Silver and Jim, convinced this is Silver's treachery. Just as they're about to attack, shots ring out from the trees. Dr. Livesey, Gray, and Ben Gunn ambush the pirates from cover. In the ensuing gunfight, several pirates are killed. The rest flee into the woods, leaving Silver and Jim with the loyal party. Ben Gunn then reveals that he found the treasure years ago and moved it to his cave. They all go to Gunn's secret cave, where the enormous treasure, gold bars, coins, jewels, is indeed stored. They spend days transporting it to the Hispaniola. Silver, though still under suspicion, helps with the work, knowing his fate depends on their mercy. They set sail for home, leaving 3 surviving pirates marooned on the island with some supplies and ammunition, a merciful alternative to execution. During the voyage home, Silver's true nature remains ambiguous. He works diligently, but everyone watches him carefully. One morning, when they're within sight of a Spanish port where they plan to resupply, they discover Long John Silver is gone. He has taken a sack of coins and escaped in one of the boats, disappearing forever. The remaining voyage home is successful. They return to England with the treasure, which is divided among the loyal party according to their original agreement. Ben Gunn, despite having already spent much of his share, gets a portion that makes him comfortable, if not as wealthy as he dreamed. Jim Hawkins reflects on the adventure, noting that none of them return for the remaining silver still buried on the island. The memories are too dark. The treasure that cost so many lives now feels tainted by blood and betrayal. Back in England, the story becomes legend. Jim has nightmares for years about the island, the sea, and especially the one-legged man. He sometimes wakes in terror, hearing the echo of pieces of eight or the haunting sea shanty. The gold they brought home cannot erase the psychological scars. Dr. Livesey and Squire Trelawney handle their shares wisely, but Jim senses they too are changed men, more serious and less prone to romantic adventure after their experiences. Jim often thinks about Silver, where he might have gone, whether he survived, if he found more treasure or met a violent end. That ambiguous figure represents the moral complexity of the whole adventure. Neither purely evil nor good, but a survivor who operated by his own pirate code. Jim sometimes wonders if Silver felt any genuine affection for him, or if it was all calculated manipulation. The question remains unanswered, like so much about the sea and the men who sail it. Years later, Jim occasionally visits the Admiral Benbow, now rebuilt and thriving under new management. He never shares the full story with the patrons who hear rumors of his adventure. The inn holds mixed memories: his father's death, the captain's terrifying presence, the dangerous visit from Black Dog and Pew. It's also where the adventure began, where an ordinary boy's life turned extraordinary. Jim understands that some stories are best left as fragments, their full truth known only to those who live them. The treasure itself becomes almost secondary in Jim's memories. What lingers are the faces: honest Tom Redruth dying without complaint, brave Captain Smollett fighting through his wounds, Dr. Livesey maintaining calm in crisis, and the various pirates whose greed led them to violence and death. The gold bars and coins eventually blend into ordinary life, used for homes, businesses, comforts, losing their luster as mere currency rather than cursed booty. Jim keeps a few souvenirs: a gold coin from Flint's treasure, the map, now framed in his study, and Captain Flint the parrot, who outlives them all, still squawking pieces of eight at unexpected moments. The parrot serves as a living reminder that the past is never completely past. Visitors find the bird amusing, but don't understand the chill it sometimes sends down Jim's spine when its cry echoes through the house. As he grows older, Jim writes down the full account, keeping nothing back except the island's exact location. He does this at the request of his friends, who want the truth preserved. Writing becomes a form of exorcism, putting the ghosts to rest on paper. Yet some ghosts refuse to be laid to rest. The sound of surf on rocky shores, the smell of salt and tar, the creak of ship timbers follow him through life, reminders of how 17 men's lives, and more, were spent pursuing dead men's dreams. The story ends with Jim's reflection on the enduring allure of treasure maps and adventure stories. He understands why people are drawn to such tales: the promise of transformation, of escaping ordinary life for something grander. But he knows the darker truth: that treasure often costs more than it's worth, and the real transformation is rarely the one imagined. The greatest treasure brought back wasn't gold, but hard-won wisdom about human nature, courage, and the thin line between civilization and savagery. In his final thoughts, Jim Hawkins acknowledges that the sea continues to call men to adventure, just as it called him. New ships set sail for unknown shores. New boys dream of glory, and the cycle continues. Treasure Island remains out there somewhere, with its buried silver and unmarked graves, waiting to tempt the next generation. Jim's only advice, born of bitter experience, is simple: be careful what you wish for, watch for one-legged men, and remember that the dead tell no tales, but the living must live with the tales they create. And so the story closes, not with an ending, but with the understanding that adventures never truly end. They just become stories waiting to be told again. Subscribe to Classic Book Summaries so you don't miss the next book summary.